So this was the very first season of Love Island that I have ever watched from the beginning to end and didn't give up halfway through. It's usually because it's just kind of boring and a little stupid, not gonna lie, but this time around they managed to keep my attention, and this season's drama has just been too good to pass up. Now, if you're not familiar with how things are on this show, you start off with a small group of men and women, usually in their 20s, so they're prone to still making all the worst decisions. Then they all just shop around trying to see who they have a connection with, then they couple up, and those that don't end up in a couple after each round or before they bring in new people or bombshells, and they have a pretty high chance of getting kicked off the island. But of course, there's a lot of debauchery in between. The couple that makes it to the end of the couple of weeks and gets the most votes gets $100,000 to either split amongst themselves, or one person would take the whole thing and run. But I don't know who would outright choose to take it all on national television and risk getting chastised and pretty much called money hungry for the rest of their life. It would definitely make you look bad, so the question is, why would you do it? But let's get into it because we got about 30 something episodes to get through. This is gonna be part 1. I'm gonna have to split this into 2 parts because there was just so much to talk about and I can't pack it into one video. So we get introduced to our first group of singles. For the ladies, we have Alondria, Shelly, Bella, Ulisa, and Huda. For the guys, we got Ace, Nick, Taylor, Austin, and Jeremiah. And oh, I forgot to mention that it's hosted by Ariana Madix, and Matthew Hoffman does the kind of funny and semi-cringy voiceovers. But of course, in the first episode, the women get the chance to kiss all the guys and choose who they'd actually like to pair up with. But if 2 women choose the same man, then the one who chose last gets to give the other one the boot. So our first set of couples ends up being Alondria and Taylor, Shelly and Austin, Bella and Nick, Ulisa and Ace, and Huda and Jeremiah. Now, right off the bat, I could tell that Nick wasn't really feeling Bella like that, especially since she was really conservative at first and was kind of the only one that just did the kiss on the cheek instead of an actual kiss with the guys. Shelly, on the other hand, clearly really wanted Ace. Apparently, they had known each other before the show and was trying to get something popping, but I guess it just didn't work out at the time. But Austin was plan B and he knew that, but he was still trying to see what was up. Alondria just kept talking about how she's from the country and how she liked how Taylor was a country boy, and that was about it. The producers didn't really include too much of their other conversations to get a better perspective of what was happening there, but it did seem like she was a little more interested than he was. But I did like how poised she was throughout this whole season, even though some people were really trying her. Jeremiah and Huda were kind of the only ones out of this batch to really hit it off, but the other folks felt like it was a little too serious too fast and was coming off not genuine. Now, Ace didn't really seem all that interested in Ulisa. He really was more interested in Shelly, but this kind of becomes a theme throughout the show where both of them would say that they're interested, then choose other people, but it's mainly Ace because he's all over the place. But I later found out that Ulisa was actually removed from the show because some videos of her using racial slurs resurfaced. But let's be real, resurfaced is pretty much code for someone dug them up on purpose to take her down. That's usually how these things go. Still to this very moment, I have no clue what she actually said, but she did make a video over on TikTok to talk about it, but it was about 5 minutes plus of her just babbling, but she did end up apologizing.
Regular day, wake up in the morning, shades go up, lights go on. Good morning, Islanders. It was one of those days. And I was actually just getting comfortable, just coming out of my shell. Because, day 1 and 2, I was kind of timid, shy. So I was just getting comfortable. So I was upset that I got pulled out on that day because I was like, damn, I was just starting to have fun, but it is what it is. When I got my phone back, I was like, holy no way. And it was a lot to take in. And yeah, like I just started searching the web, Googling my name. I was like, no, I can't believe people think that I'm racist. I mean, I get it. I said a word that I should have not said. But man, I wish I would have never said that, So, I mean, it is what it is. I can't go back in time. I am sorry that I said that word.
There was another cast member that came on later as a bombshell that ended up running into the same issue, but we'll get into that in a bit. So here we have our first set of bombshells come in, and I gotta be honest, these texts had me worried throughout these episodes because I'm like, what's about to happen now? But Shelly meets Charlie, he's from the UK, and Nick gets called up to meet Sierra, who he ends up really kicking things off with. Alondria tells Taylor that she is still keeping her options open, but their connection is the strongest in her eyes. But again, I just was not getting that energy from Taylor. It really just felt like he was just holding on to her until something better came around, but we'll talk about that probably in part 2. Huda and Jeremiah keep trying to convince themselves and everyone else that they're not closed off, but that doesn't really look to be true considering how Huda reacts a few episodes later to certain things that happened with Jeremiah. But I would like to mention that these folks have only known of each other's existence for a few days at this point. Shelly is still very interested in Ace, and Charlie is left to play the field, and Sierra was kind of doing the same thing but with Jeremiah, and Huda was seething. And I was like, girl, please calm down. This is not even your man yet. They have the first recoupling and everyone gets a chance to decide if they want to stay in their original couples or choose one of the bombshells. But the bombshells were going to be safe from elimination regardless. None of the girls wanted Charlie, but all the guys except for Jeremiah, of course, stands up for Sierra, including Taylor, which had Alondria stunned. But Sierra ended up picking Nick and Bella is left single. Alondria has a talk with Taylor. She still wants to keep chatting with him, but nothing is really clear and it stays like that for most of the show. This is around the time that Huda tells Jeremiah that she does have a daughter, and even though he seems fine, you could see it in his eyes that he wasn't really sure if he was really okay with that. Sierra seems to be really digging Nick, but he's still also dragging Bella along. Side note though, I do really like that the guys make the ladies breakfast every morning, and I really love when some of the women take it upon themselves to do it for the men that they like as well. I feel like it shouldn't be a one-sided thing, like you should do it if you want to, you know what I'm saying? Then we have our second set of bombshells come in. Hannah and Amaya. Charlie ends up getting kind of close with Hannah, but during a challenge, Amaya kisses Jeremiah, and Huda again is losing it. Jeremiah feels the need to pull Amaya aside to let her know that Huda was his number one, and Nick, on the other hand, is still being messy as hell going back and forth with Bella and Sierra. But when it comes to Austin and Shelly, I don't understand why he's so confused that he's just the friend in their little triangle with Ace. But I do kind of sort of blame Shelly because she keeps having these side conversations with Austin trying to make it seem like she's interested. But it's never really beyond the point of just trying to get to know Austin. It's never like any flirting or anything. So it really just gives friend vibes, but Austin never picks up on that. However, it's still interesting that Ace still decides to go with Amaya, but that kind of blows up in his face later. At the recoupling, Nick chooses Sierra like we all thought he would, and Bella goes home, and things get tense between Amaya and Ace because Ace tells her that he isn't really into the whole physical thing right out the gate, no cuddling. So now she kind of feels rejected. But I feel like that was kind of not true because he was touching and feeling on Shelly pretty early on, but you know. Anyways, so Alondria is pushing Taylor to make a move and make his feelings known, but of course he does the same thing that he's been doing leading up to this point, which is really bare minimum and almost nothing. Jeremiah and Huda go on their first date, still feeling each other. The girls are happy for them, but the guys are wondering if he's just playing things safe. Amaya still tries to connect with Ace, but she keeps calling him babe, and he doesn't really like that. But it doesn't really mean anything to her, it's just how she talks, but he feels like it's too much too fast. Austin's getting mad because he's tired of being in a love triangle, but he still willingly stays in it, even after he chooses to see what Amaya had going on after her blow up with Ace. Then she ends up being too much for Austin as well. I honestly think, and this is coming from a person who can also get pretty emotional, I just really think that Amaya needs to find some way to reel it back a little bit. She's a little unhinged, and I do think that she needs to work on the whole emotional control just for her own safety, because you might get angry with the wrong person who isn't really in control, just like you one day, and you know, things could just go downhill real fast. She even ends up approaching Shelly about her relationship with Ace, as if it even mattered. Ace was already turned off by her anyway because of her whole blow up towards him. But my honest analysis of Ace is that he's pretty mature when it comes to his approach to things. He usually stands behind what he says, but I do think that he's just a very indecisive person when it comes to who he's gonna be with in terms of romantically speaking. But everything else, he seems pretty sturdy. He's like, listen, this is what I think, this is what it is. It's like you get what you see. But the guys, aka Ace and Nick, tell Jeremiah their thoughts about his relationship with Huda, and he starts looking at things a little differently. And a lot of people have been saying online that they think everything would have been fine with them, meaning Huda and Jeremiah, if no one got into Jeremiah's head. But I personally disagree because I think Huda would have found some way to mess it up still. Ace helps Taylor put together a date for him and Alondria, which gets her back on the Taylor train. But I felt like it really just still wasn't enough. But at least he was kind of trying, you know? That night they have their leather party, and that's when 3 more bombshells drop in. We got Pepe, Jalen, and Iris, and they all have some smooching action. From the jump, Pepe hits it off with Hannah, and Jalen trails off with Alondria, making Taylor a little jealous, surprisingly. Huda starts feeling away because she wants Jeremiah to be absolutely obsessed with her, which I definitely think is a toxic trait that many women have these days because it's a little too much. It's like, yeah, your partner should make it clear that he likes you and cares by doing certain things for you, but to be obsessed seems a little scary and kind of dangerous in some cases. But moving on. Jeremiah unfortunately makes Huda an uncooked pancake one morning, and this woman has to make it known that she went to another man in the villa to help her make another one. And I think that's just weird. Oh, and Hannah's over in the speakeasy having a pretty intense makeout session with Pepe, with Charlie getting a pep talk from Shelly around the same time because he's worried that Hannah's forming a new connection, which she most definitely was. Alondria has to be the one to remind everyone that it's only week 2 at this point, so Hannah could really do whatever she wants, but she still decides to come clean to Charlie. Austin confronts Shelly about the whole triangle situation, but doesn't really say much, and she ends up going right back to Ace. Huda and Jeremiah have a chat about their pancake conversation, and she calls him toxic. And I'm like, girl, what? Are we living in another universe right now? Pepe makes it clear that he really likes Hannah, and Charlie's still moping around about it. And at the recoupling, the fans ended up being the ones to choose who they would like to see couple up together, and boy did things get messy. So we had Amaya and Ace, Shelly and Austin, Alondria and Jalen, Hannah and Pepe, Nick and Sierra, and Iris and Jeremiah. Yeah, you heard that right. They broke up Huda and Jeremiah, and they ultimately decide to vote out Charlie, and Hannah pretends to be devastated even though she barely knew this man, and pretty much just ran into Pepe's arms a few hours later. Huda is having a full-on breakdown, calling Jeremiah the B word and a liar. She's mad as though this man picked Iris himself. Alondria isn't really feeling Jalen as much as Taylor, but she's happy she's getting some attention from someone else on the island. Ace and Shelly finally have their date because the last time he was trying to do something, Amaya blew up on Shelly, and it just blew up his plans. Huda is blowing off steam with Amaya until Iris and Jeremiah come back from their date, and this girl starts yelling F you, flipped him off in front of everyone, walking around all crazy, crying, and then she pulls Iris aside to talk to her about the date that he had with her, and I honestly would have been terrified if I was Iris in that moment because Huda was going nuts. She even started getting mad at Iris, like, what the hell did she do? Everyone's just getting tired of the whole thing, so eventually Jeremiah just decides to start avoiding her. And I didn't really like how the other girls on the island was just patting her feelings as if the girl wasn't all the way wrong with her behavior. Jalen ends up going home in the end because Alondria chooses Taylor. Shocker, I know. And they save Huda yet again after Jeremiah chooses Iris. But at least Ace chose Shelly finally because I was like, boy, stop playing. Megan Thee Stallion also made an appearance for one of their challenges, which was kind of fun because you could tell that she really likes watching the show too. But then we had our 4th set of bombshells, Andreina and TJ. So Andreina connects with Jeremiah, but it does seem very surface, like you look good, I look good, let's make out type of surface. Austin is getting annoyed with Amaya because he feels like she's too clingy, which I think is interesting because Harry was deep in the friend zone with Shelly, complaining about how he wasn't really getting the time of day, and now he's complaining about actually getting attention. Anyways, so Sierra is putting some pressure on Nick around this point in time to kind of close things off with her, and Hannah ends up getting the boot at the end of this particular episode, but now Pepe is running around like a lost puppy. After all that, we have a kissing competition where the girls are taken away to Casa Amor, where they meet a whole other group of guys. The boys are left at the villa with a whole new set of girls, and they even have to recouple with them to avoid elimination, and the same thing goes for the girls. Sierra starts forming a connection with Elon, who actually seems to have thoughts in his brain past just, I think you're super hot. So very unlike Nick in my opinion. The new couples from the girls' side were Andreina and Brian, Shelly and Chris, Iris and Zach with a C, Sierra and Elon, Huda and JD, who I kept confusing with Chris to be honest, and then Amaya and Zach with a K. And Alondria ended up getting dumped. Over on the guys side, we had Austin and Jaden, Ace and Coco, Taylor and Clark, Pepe and Grayson, and TJ and Vanna. And Nick ended up getting kicked out, but then before he leaves, the car pulls up and it's Alondria in there telling him to hurry up and get in. So I'm just gonna say stay tuned for part 2 because we got a lot more to talk about and cover from this season, but it was just going to be too much for me to pack into this one video like I said already. So be patient with me, it will be coming shortly, okay? But let me know your thoughts so far on everything that I mentioned in this video, and I will catch you guys in the next one.